So Colossians chapter 3, starting in verse 22. Bondservants, or maybe your translation says slaves. Bondservants, obey. Don't run from, don't disrespect. Obey in everything those who are your earthly masters. Tough text. Don't run from them. In fact, what I want you to do if you're a slave, no civil rights movement, don't rebel, be the best slave you can be. Be really good slaves. Obey in everything those who are your earthly masters. Then look at chapter 4, verse 1. Look at what he says to the masters. Masters, treat your bondservants justly and fairly. Okay, don't abuse them. Don't squeeze them for all they're worth. Don't mistreat them, take advantage of them, but treat them fairly. And then in between those two commands, Paul gives a framework for how every single one of us, how we are supposed to think about our work. Because every single one of us is in between those two things. We're either a master or we're a slave. At least we feel like it. So look at what he says in verse 23. Verse 22, bondservants, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, not by way of eye service as people pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. Then look at verse 23. Whatever you do. Now that's unfortunate, isn't it? Whatever. You say, well, my job's insignificant. Whatever. You know, people don't appreciate my job. I'm just an entry-level, secretary. I exist to make somebody else look good. My work isn't significant. Paul says, doesn't matter whether you think it's significant. Doesn't matter whether the culture thinks it's significant. Whatever you do. You say, well, I'm just part-time. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. The culture despises this kind of social institution. I'm just this, I'm just that. Paul says, whatever. It doesn't matter what you do. You retired, not retired, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, because you do something, you have a vocation, you have some kind of life calling, you're doing something with your life. So whatever that is, whatever you do, work heartily, meaning put your heart in it. Work with enthusiasm. And you say, why would I put my heart in my work when nobody else puts their heart in their work? Why would I put my heart in my work when my boss doesn't even know I exist? Why would I put my heart in my work when they're only paying me minimum wage? Why would I work heartily? And Paul says, whatever you do, part-time, full-time, lots of pay, little pay, respectable, irrespectable, culturally significant, not culturally significant, whatever you do, work heartily, put your heart in it. He goes on into verse 23, as for the Lord and not for men. So Paul says, when you go to work Monday morning, I want you to do your job. I want you to think about your work in terms of, I'm not working for my earthly boss. I'm working for the Lord. You say, well, what do you mean? Well, we know what it is to work for men, right? We know what it is to pay eye service to our job. We know what it means to be people pleasers. It's all the little games that we play. It's leaving your car in the parking lot and driving to lunch with somebody else so that they think you're working through lunch, right? Anybody ever done that? Well, I know I have. Marissa, just kidding. I used to leave my car in the parking lot overnight. I slept at the church. Work real hard. I'm ashamed that I did it, but I did it. No, I did it, but not for those reasons. But we do these kinds of games. We leave our glasses right there on our desk while we go to the bathroom so that people think we're going to be working late. We loyal to the boss instead of the company because the boss, got us the job. Or maybe we're not loyal to the boss. Maybe we're loyal to a certain employee or a certain manager instead of the boss because that's the person who's going to get me my next job, or that's the person who I'm really loyal to. We take credit for as many ideas as that are possible, and even if they're not our ideas, because that's what you do when you work for men. We'll lie, cheat, steal, undermine, do any kind of things. It's the games that we play working for men, making ourselves look good even when we aren't good, punching the clock, making ourselves look as though we're doing more than we're actually doing. And Paul's saying, don't work that way. When you work as though you're working for the Lord, not for men. So regardless what you do, I want you to do it with all of your heart, as for the Lord, not for your earthly boss or your employer. Then verse 24, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward.